Well, Nat's not here yet, but I have a funny story to tell about Nat. So when Sumo Joe, when I first got the contract from Lee and Lowe to write the book, I also manage the Multicultural Children's Day Instagram account, or I'm one of the Instagram account, people that post on it. And I was doing this whole series of looking for BIPOC illustrators of children's books. And specifically, I was trying to figure out how would you portray diversity through children's book faces? Because I was noticing it's actually pretty hard to draw someone who's Latinx. I saw a lot of Frida Kahlo, monobrow, but if you don't put them in costume, they just sort of look, like brunettes, And the same thing for Asians. If you don't do something very specific to making the eye look Asian, you can't really tell. So anyway, I spent all this time just kind of scrolling through Instagram, through illustrator, portfolio accounts. And then I happened upon this sumo drawing, and there were two of them. And it was sort of a sumo wrestler in two scenes. One scene he was eating kind of the stew that they eat, and one of them he was kind of in a sumo practice studio. And I thought, oh my God, is there another sumo book out? And I just don't know about it, because it just looked like it looked like an illustration for a picture book. And then so I looked, I was who is this? What is this? And I was looking, maybe there's another picture book out, and I couldn't find any. And then I thought, oh my God, this illustration, it's so cool. Oh my God, I would love for someone like this to illustrate Sumo Joe. And then I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks later, the editor at Lee and Lowe, Candace Costin, emails and says, "Oh, we got an illustrator for Sumo Joe. You're not allowed to talk to the person, but we just wanted to let you know we found someone. He's great. He's also half Japanese. I'm half Japanese, half Chinese, and it's Nat Iwata." And then I realized, oh my God, it's the same person who drew those sumo pictures. And so I was wondering, oh, I wonder if they made him audition for it, draw some sumo and see if it's the right style. And so months later, because I wasn't allowed to talk to him for I feel a year until the illustrations were completely done. I said, oh, I saw those illustrations and it kind of blew my mind, and I was making a wish out in the universe that this person would illustrate the book. And I was was that an audition? And he was no. When I first got the contract, or, I got the offer to illustrate Sumo Joe, I was so excited. I drew these two pictures. And and they were fully rendered, these were not sketches. They were fully rendered 4-color. They looked like they were ready to go in a book. And I was like kismet, it was incredible. Okay, so I have another Nat Iwata story to tell you. Maybe I'll keep telling stories until he shows up. So after the book was out and we were allowed to talk to each other, we messaged a little bit, not a ton, but on email, on social media. And anyway, I think we were in another interview together. Oh, I think it were Matthew Winner's, his children's book podcast. And we talked about sumo versus Aikido, which is in the book. And then Nat said, I studied Aikido. And I was like, oh my God, I studied Aikido too. And we're both yeah, we only did it for a little bit. And I was oh yeah, I used to live in West LA in this area off Sawtelle Street. And it was known as a little Japantown, kind of a mini version of Los Angeles Japantown. And then right down the street from me actually was a Aikido studio. So I just started taking some classes just because it was literally walking distance. And I didn't realize, but my Aikido instructor, who was Spanish from Spain, actually lived in my apartment building, because I actually ran into my Aikido instructor in the laundry room, the sole washer and dryer. And I was so shocked because I recognized him, but not really, because he wasn't wearing his gi. But anyway, I digress. And so Nat said, oh yeah, I studied Aikido too. He has 3 sons. And I don't know if this was in Portland where he lived, or Seattle where he lived, or Amsterdam where he lives now. But he was oh yeah, my boys were taking Aikido. And then I thought, oh, I'll take it too. And he was so he took it, and it was fun. But then I think he threw his back out, or he hurt himself from it. And so it was same as me. It was maybe like 4 or 5 lessons, and then we had to kind of we ended up both stopping. But I do feel like it like served us both, because the Aikido moves they're very specific, because it's a martial art where it's not a competitive sport, because the whole point is you defend yourself but you don't hurt the attacker. And so there's these very specific moves that are precise and hard to master. But I think that's also why you see, like when he does the sumo, like in the back, in the end note, where he has like all the different poses, and you can kind of tell like that's a very specific move. It's probably also his animation background, but I think just knowing a little bit of Aikido and knowing like it's very specific where you put, how you put your hands and where you stand, and that would be the same for sumo as well.
I think the last thing I maybe want to say is just that it was a great experience working with Mia, and I'm just always impressed and inspired by how much she's doing in this sphere. I feel like I kind of pop in and like illustrate a book or something, but I'm not very active on Twitter or yeah, I did the poster for Multicultural Children's Book Day that Mia's heading and stuff. So, oh, sorry, our neighbors are drilling. Hang on. Okay, that happens a lot here. But yeah, just to see Mia, how consistent she is, and how she's just like pushing to get, more diversity, more, Asian representation in children's books, and what she's doing with Multicultural Children's Book Day. It's just awesome. She's just like nonstop with this stuff, and I'm really glad that she's doing it. And I'm glad when I've been able to be a part of that with Sumo Joe and with the poster, and hopefully with more in the future. But it was great working with her, and who knows, maybe we'll have another project someday.
Oh, so thank you for bringing up how Asians are depicted. And I actually have it here, eyes that kiss in the corners. And I think she did such a brilliant job of talking about this issue. And she does it in a way where it's not really negative at all about the stereotype. But that brings me to another point, because I have this book here, Slanted, and this is a memoir by Simon Tam. And he is the person who went all the way to the Supreme Court and won a landmark case in trademark and copyright law that he was allowed to use the slants, which is his all Asian American band, like pop music band name, before going through all these layers of court trials. They were saying, oh, you can't use the term slants or slanted because it's anti-Asian. Even though like they have granted trademark protection for non-Asians who use the term slant. And so Simon was all about reappropriation and taking terms that are negative and fought for, the right to reappropriate a negative term. And even in Sumo Joe, there was a little bit of controversy, I must admit, on Twitter, where some people said, the eyes are slanted, and that's racist. And I wrote this huge, gigantic post on my blog, Pragmatic Mom, about Asian eyes. How should they be depicted? What is considered racist? What is not considered? What is okay? And it's basically my own opinion, but I have it. I researched it based on how the media in general portrays Asians, like what is the representation when you see Asians like on the big screen or on the little screen. And my whole take was that Asians, we're not a monolith. We are so many different nations and even cultures within one country, and there's no specific Asian eye per se. The Asian eye can be defined by a slant, because that is true. That is a defining physical feature that makes you Asian. And so therefore it's not racist because it is a defining feature, but within that there's a lot of variation of eyelid, eye shape, and angle. And then I had this whole study of plastic surgery in Asia and Korea, and specifically, and in other countries, Asian countries, where there's a lot of, it's like the most popular plastic surgery procedure to make an Asian eye look different, like more Caucasian or bigger or rounder. And so I kind of went through that. And at the end of the day, it isn't really so much like, are you Asian, are you not Asian, that lets you draw the eye any way you want, in my opinion. But it's really about, you have to depict an eye in a range that represents Asians, and I give all these examples of people in the media, plus like in every book I owned with an Asian character on the cover, which is to say, like, it can have various angles, but like it should have an eyeball. Okay, like that was sort of like my minimum. Like if you draw a slash line, that's a little bit more problematic. But my caveat is that it also depends who the illustrator is, because if you're Taro Gomi, for example, and you're Japanese from Japan, this whole issue of slants and slant eyes is foreign to you, because when you live in Japan, you don't experience racism because, you're all Japanese. And so I think you have to look at it from a lens of, what is the context of the illustrator's point of view. And also, you have to be careful to say, like, there's not one correct way to draw an Asian face or to depict an Asian eye, because we're not, there's no one Asian eye. Like, even within, I go through my own family. I was like, my husband, myself, and just one of my children, my middle daughter. And I was like, look how different our eyes are. My husband's Korean American. I'm half Japanese. I'm half Chinese, and my daughter is all three, obviously. But then I also show her from like a toddler to like a preschooler to like a teenager, like a middle schooler to like a high schooler, and you can see how her eyes changed. Like her eyes literally look different from, like, I don't know, 15 months until she's 19 now. And so even there's variation by age, and even my daughter would say there's variation in my eye depending on, like what I ate. Like some mornings I wake up, my eyes are really puffy and my eyes look, they look smaller, or, you know what I mean? So it's like not an easy topic to define or to say what is right or wrong. However, when it is something that if you're not Asian American and you're drawing, like you're just drawing BIPOC because, that's like the trendy thing to do now, or that helps you get published, you have to be aware of all these issues when you depict it. You can't just be like, I'm just going to draw it, I have no idea. I'm just going to draw it with a slant, even though they're supposed to be awake. And then if I get pushback, I just go, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know. I'm not Asian. And that's the whole thing about own voices. And that's why you have someone like Joanna Ho and Dung Ho, who are Asian and do understand the nuances of how Asians have been depicted in the media or in books, and how, there's nuances of racism in that depiction, or and that, it's a sensitive subject. And the same thing for Nat, like the fact that he is Asian, he understands the nuances. It makes his depictions more realistic, more accurate. So, I'm all for own voices.